All right, here's a few news stories. This one I think is the most important one from today. I wasn't aware of these weaknesses, and I thought this was very interesting. This is from Dan Gooden, who is the head of security reporting at Ars Technica, and very good. And what he points out here is that almost all two-factor authentication is currently vulnerable, which I didn't realize. And the way it works is a man-in-the-middle attack, which I think this picture will be. Let's see. Yeah, adversary in the middle. So you somehow trick the user into going to the wrong site. That part is not clear, so you get to misspell it or something. Then they make an HTTPS connection to this site, but it's the wrong site. So you give them the password, and they send it to the website. Then they ask for a multi-factor authentication token, and the user gives them that, and you just pass that in, so you get in their account. And there's a kit for sale that will do this for criminals for a few hundred to a few $1,000s. And they say it's working just fine on all kinds of devices, and this will defeat any common kind of two-factor authentication, not just SMS, but also the kind I like, where you have Google Authenticator, creating, and for that matter, those RSA tokens that give you a number to type in. Anything where you type it in, how does it know which MFA to use? Well, you have to customize it for the site you're going to attack, I think. But it gives you the common options. So, but I don't really know exactly how Okta and Duo work, but they say this works against almost all of them, which I didn't realize they were that vulnerable. But he references there is a solution, though, which this report does not reference, but the reporter references. And here's the previous article with the solution, and the solution is FIDO. So FIDO, let me see if I can get this picture to show up. Yeah, see, FIDO works like this. Your phone is the second factor. You authenticate your identity with a fingerprint or something. Then it sends a Bluetooth signal to your laptop so you can sign in. And the point is, this authentication process supposedly verifies that you are going to the real URL and not a phishing URL. And it makes sure that this device is near that device. So if a person in the middle was trying to make a proxy and sign in, it would detect that the device actually signing in is not near this phone. And on top of that, it wouldn't happen because this process somehow makes sure that you're going to the right URL, and that part I'm not really sure how it works. Anyway, he says this in practice completely ends phishing. He said there is no known way to phish this right now, which I take with a grain of salt because not very many people are using this yet. I'm not using it yet. I don't even know if I mean, this is a few months ago. They said various websites are beginning to offer this option, but I guess I should look into it and try to put this app on my phone and start using this technique. And maybe they'll find some weakness in it. But anyway, that's important to know. Normal two-factor authentication is a lot more vulnerable than I thought. And this FIDO thing is apparently a lot better. So we should probably start looking into it and moving to it. Especially this is the CISSP class, where this kind of information is probably going to be more relevant than most of my classes. The NSA has published official advice on achieving zero trust. Zero trust is the government recommended security procedure. It's sort of a vague concept right now. The idea is you should not trust any of your devices or really any of your people. You should say they might be an attacker, they might be infected. So every request made for service on the network should be inspected for suspiciousness before you process it. But exactly how to implement it has not been clear. I don't think there's a product you can buy that will really implement it. And so we're sort of gradually getting there as we implement things like network segmentation and monitoring and logging and incident response. But anyway, they've written another document from the NSA recommending how to implement this. And the one thing I saw here that I could understand is you have 7 pillars: the user, the device, the data, the application, the network, visibility and analytics, and automation and orchestration. And that's a good point. They have things I wouldn't have thought of there, but I have heard people have attacked the automation frameworks and the orchestration frameworks. So they get your automated defenses and hijack them. It's like attacking the supply chain. So it's a good thing to think about. Everything on your network would have to be secured. Anyway, Meta already tried this in Australia. Australia tried passing a law so that content aggregators like Facebook News would have to pay for the news they aggregate. And they're used to not paying for it, so they threatened to not provide service anymore in Australia, but they eventually settled, and they supposedly are paying something to the news agencies in Australia, although maybe not much. And so now Canada is also trying to pass a law requiring the Facebook to pay for the news. It aggregates onto the news feed, and again, they're threatening not to block news there. But since they already gave in Australia, it seems like they've kind of exposed their bluffing. They're supposedly, both in Canada and the U.S., they're going to do it. Yeah, well, yeah, I see True of Heart saying Meta sucks, forget them. Yes, I don't use Meta, but they're huge. And so a lot of people do use them. So anyway,
Meta is still doing layoffs, right?
What's that?
Meta is still doing layoffs.
Yeah, they're doing layoffs, but you know, if Scott Galloway points out the amount they're laying off is less than what they hired through the pandemic. So, but Meta in particular is currently going through a major financial stress because they wasted so much money on the metaverse, which is a complete disaster, and they seem to have admitted that that was a disaster and moved away from it. So they're probably going to greatly improve their financial situation as they finally abandon this misguided metaverse thing. Yeah, 10,000 more heads rolling. Yeah. Anyway, so GM is going to put AI in your car so you can talk to it with AI. And they say, be advising you. This, I think, is the natural consequence of ChatGPT coming out. There's already OnStar in GM vehicles where you can talk to a human operator and make a phone call and ask for help and things like that. And so they're going to put AI in there, which seems like a very logical thing to do. I think everybody's going to be putting ChatGPT on their help desk. It's
cheaper than human.
Yeah, cheaper than a human, and very stupider than a human too, but it could probably handle the ordinary stuff like, do you want one of the 10 most common things? And then forward you to a human if you have a more complicated query. That's how I would think you'd use it. So there's a botnet that knows your name and it quotes your email. So exactly how it gets it, I'm not quite sure, but this is EmoChat and it's considered quite good. Malicious spam messages appear to come from a known contact, address you by name, and they seem to be replying to an existing thread. So it's brought in new techniques to evade endpoint security products and so on. So it seems pretty sophisticated. So it seems pretty smart. One thing I noticed here is they have attachments and they add a bunch of zeros to make them really big, because apparently attachment scanners can't scan really big attachments, 500 megabyte attachments. So that's a technique I haven't heard of in practical use before, although it's a theoretical one. So anyway, that's a thing to be aware of. You may watch for those emails. So Lockbit is one of the ransomware groups, and they say they have stolen SpaceX blueprints, and they're going to dump out SpaceX. Blueprints, whatever harm that'll do is not clear, but anyway, it may be an embarrassment for SpaceX. It's not clear if it's really going to hurt them. Japan wants to deliver mail with autonomous drones. It's going to deliver physical letters by drone. And the reason they're doing this, I think, is because they have trouble finding enough human workers. Yeah, shortages of workers. And the time it's spent to deliver to remote mountainous locations. Japan has a huge demographic problem, which is even worse than what we have in America, but it's coming, where a lot of people are old and retired, and there's a small number of young people to do all the work. So they're probably going to need a lot more robots and technology helpers, since they don't have enough human workers. And you can replace Siri with ChatGPT on your phone, apparently. I haven't tried this yet, but apparently you can do this. Now, I guess it must be connecting over an API to some server. But apparently you can just choose off a menu and do it. That's right. You have to get an API key, which is apparently free. You get an OpenAI account and you get an API key, and then you can connect your Siri to it. So that's pretty interesting. Might be a good thing to do to get used to using the AI. Anyway, that's all the news I found to show you.